Our story concludes in the early 18th century, a time known as the Age of Enlightenment. The fierce belief in witches that had ruled England for over 150 years was finally crumbling. Chapter 13 describes this slow, reluctant surrender of superstition to reason. By the 1690s, the educated judges and gentry had largely stopped believing in the devil's power in England. Trials became rare, and when they did happen, the juries were often skeptical and the judges were reluctant. The cultural landscape had shifted. The Royal Society promoted scientific thought, and legal minds dismissed the spectral evidence of the past. However, the change was slow and fear lingered, especially in remote rural areas. This led to the final, tragic figure of the witch hunt, Jane Wenham of Hertfordshire in 1712. Jane Wenham was an elderly, poor woman accused by a young servant of bewitching her. The trial that followed was a direct confrontation between the past and the future. The local villagers and the prosecuting counsel passionately argued for Wenham's guilt, relying on old testimonies and local superstitions. They believed she had used her magic to torment and possess the victim. Yet, the presiding judge, Sir John Powell, was a staunch skeptic. He famously dismissed the old evidence. When the accusers claimed Jane could fly, Judge Powell pointedly remarked that there was no law against flying. He was determined to stop the execution. Despite the strong evidence from the local community and despite the jury, which was still drawn from fearful villagers, returning a verdict of guilty, Judge Powell intervened. He successfully delayed the sentencing and appealed to the Queen for a royal pardon. Jane Wenham was ultimately spared and given refuge, becoming one of the last people in England to be found guilty of witchcraft but not executed. This event was a turning point. It showed that even when the community believed, the legal system, guided by skeptical judges, would no longer follow through with the death sentence. The final decisive blow came 6 years later, in 1718, with the publication of Francis Hutchinson's masterful book, which meticulously exposed the entire history of the witch hunts as a chain of lies, fraud, and legal error. Hutchinson's work delivered a final and deadly blow to the dying superstition. It shamed educated society into admitting its mistake. The old Elizabethan statute was finally repealed in 1736, officially ending the crime of witchcraft in England. The story of the final decline is one of legal skepticism, intellectual courage, and the slow, painful triumph of human reason over ancient, destructive fear.